listening to Sports Radio Detroit.
Welcome to Grave Discussions. I'm your host, Barnabas.
And I am your co-host, Samael. Welcome to episode number 75. You played a good game, boy.
Yes. As you guys may already know, we are going to be discussing one of our new favorite horror franchises, Phantasm.
Yes, we just kind of, in the past 2 months, the past few weeks where we've been just finishing up the podcast, we'd watch Phantasm 1. Next podcast, we watch Phantasm 2 after. Next one afterward, we watch Phantasm 3, and so on. And it's easily become one of my favorite horror/sci-fi franchises of all time.
Yeah, I totally share that feeling. And so we thought, what better to talk about this week after having just watched Phantasm Ravager than the franchise as a whole and why it became one of our favorites, because it was relatively low key to us, and I feel like it kind of has that status overall in the horror genre. So yeah, just give it some more exposure and just talk about why we like it. So
yes, I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm excited. As always though, guys, we do have to give a shout out to our gracious host network, Sports Radio Detroit.
The greatest of all time, and you can find them on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Just look up SRD Sports Radio Detroit. That's SRD Sports Radio Detroit, not Detroit Sports Radio.
That's right. You can also visit sportsradiodetroit.com, where you can see more Grave Discussions content, and you can also listen to all the other awesome podcasts on the network as well. So do that.
Shout out to Over Under Fair. We're coming soon, guys.
Oh yeah, we're going to be doing something pretty cool with them pretty soon, so be on the lookout. But we are going to get into our show here in just a moment, but first, a few sponsored messages, and then we'll be back with more uninterrupted Grave Discussions. Here at Grave Discussions, we know that addiction can be scary, but it doesn't have to be. Let the Detox Helpline help you break your addiction to drugs and alcohol. Call the addiction specialist now at the Detox and Treatment Helpline 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
They're always available for you, and if you have private insurance, they specialize in finding you the right treatment. Give them a call at 1-800-213-9257. That is 800-213-9257.
Hi, this is Jason Pinkett from Pucking Around and Spinning the Wheels on Sports Radio Detroit. Check us out every Sunday over on the SRD Hockey feed on Spotify, TuneIn Radio, Podbean, iTunes, and Stitcher. That's SRD Hockey in your search bar. New episodes every week.
Hey Samuel.
Hey Barnabas, what's up?
Oh, not much. Have you ever written a book?
No, but I've written a musical.
Oh, well, you can become a published author with Dorrance Publishing, the nation's oldest publishing services company.
Aha, I hear countless authors have trusted Dorrance for nearly 100 years to bring their books to the market.
Their professional team will edit your text, design your book pages, and create an appealing, eye-catching custom cover. Plus, their authors benefit from a custom book promotion marketing campaign that makes your book available where people buy books.
So, make this free call right now to claim your free author's guide to publishing. Do not wait another day. Take one step closer to realizing your dream of becoming a published author.
And seeing your name in print.
Aha! You've already written a book. Next thing to do is make this free call now to Dorrance Publishing and get your free guide to publishing. Call right now.
And the number is 1-800-213-9259. Again, 1-800-213-9259. All right, Sam. So since our last episode, what's been going on?
There's been a lot going on, but I think I know exactly where to start. So, Grindhouse Releasing is bringing back the original Evil Dead in theaters and rescored.
Oh yeah, and it's going to be 4K as well. So
Yes.
that's insane. I am super excited.
They're probably gonna, like, probably do it at, only a few theaters, because, like, modern horror fans don't really appreciate, like, the old movies, especially Evil Dead coming out in, like, the 80s, so I don't know how, like, people of, like, the modern day would react to it. They'd, like, get a giggle out of a few parts, but I think only, like, people that are fans of, like, the pioneers of horror will find this one appealing.
Yeah, I agree. I have actually gone to see both The Shining and From Dusk Till Dawn in theaters, because, this is another thing, like, similar to the Fathom events and flashback cinema that other theaters are doing, bringing back these old movies. And a lot of these old movies are beloved and people do want to go check them out. Like, I just saw Jurassic Park. Big audience for that. The other movies, not quite as big of an audience, but I could tell, like, everybody that was there was most likely already a horror lover or a fan of, that movie in particular. Evil Dead's sweet. I mean, it's iconic, obviously, and bringing it back with these new elements is going to be really cool for us, super fans. I mean, it's basically my favorite horror movie ever, and it's actually going to have a reimagined score by the original composer, Joseph LaDuca, and in thrilling new 5.1 surround sound. So I'm pretty excited for it. The quality increase is going to be sweet because I've never seen it in 4K. So yeah, I'm
I actually watched it recently in 4K.
Nice.
I have the 4K Evil Dead. I bought it from Best Buy. They got a crap ton of them over there, and I really enjoyed it. Evil Dead is one of those horror movies I can actually watch it like once a month, like Halloween and Friday the 13th and The Burning, like, and I don't get sick of it.
Yeah, that's me with like all of like the Evil Dead movies, including Army of Darkness and the show too.
I watched Evil Dead like twice this year so far. Like, probably gonna watch it for a third time, or might just do Evil Dead 2. I'm not sure because I got that one in 4K as well. So
I like doing at least one of them for Halloween, pretty much like every year. So yeah, I'm probably gonna do maybe Evil Dead 2 this year.
Yeah, I'm just gonna like fly through the series. I'm gonna like give a little spoiler. In October, like 4 of my movies for Halloween are definitely gonna be Evil Dead 1 and 2, Army of Darkness, and the remake.
Nice. Yeah, no, I think that's a solid idea. So yeah, guys, unfortunately there's no date or any more information on where it's being shown, but once we do have that info, we'll keep you guys posted, of course. This next announcement, also pretty exciting. We just talked about the Scooby-Doo Zombie Island sequel, Return to Zombie Island, and now it's going to be available 1 month early at Walmart.
How early is exactly 1 month early?
So it's going to be released on digital September 3rd.
Okay.
And the same day in Walmart, apparently.
Oh,
so
that's where I got Zombie Island, the first one from Walmart, and like the Scooby-Doo, like, Where Are You? Complete series. So probably going to head over there September 3rd and just grab myself a copy of Return to Zombie Island and we can talk about that one.
Yeah, no, it's literally like next week and maybe even the day of you listening to this, who knows. So, yeah, guys, September 3rd, you can go pick it up. And I guess if you don't go to Walmart, then fuck you.
Yeah, fuck you. I hate you.
You have to wait.
What are you doing?
Till October 1st.
What are you, a Target shopper? You freak.
You go to TJ Maxx. They don't even have Blu-rays.
I hate you. I wish I was never born. Oh, wait, different topic.
Yeah, we'll talk about that one another time, guys.
This next bit of news was pretty exciting.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. I know you were probably jazzed about this. For some reason, I thought that he had been in a previous movie, but the actor, but he wasn't. So go ahead, Sam. What's going on?
So Anthony Michael Hall is joining us in Halloween Kills, and he's going to be Tommy Doyle.
Oh, yeah.
Because Brian Andrews, I think that's the original Tommy Doyle, he hasn't done anything really at all besides like conventions and stuff. He hasn't acted in a minute. So we can't just like put him as Tommy Doyle just because of nostalgia, Yeah. I think Anthony Michael Hall is like the perfect role. I think if Tommy Doyle, grew up and had a relatively normal life, he'd probably end up something like Anthony Michael Hall, just serious old guy. Yeah. Fun fact, I didn't know Anthony Michael Hall was the nerd dude in Breakfast Club.
Yeah, exactly.
I never knew that. I'm fucking stupid.
The name was familiar, but when I saw his face, I was like, he's a pretty average looking dude.
Yeah,
I have no idea who he is.
Remember the Dead Zone?
Yeah, I barely, but yes. Was he in that too?
I'm pretty sure he was like the main dude.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, there you go. So, I mean, he is a relatively, popular actor, more so in like, the 80s and 90s and so on. But no, it's a cool bit of news. Obviously, the timeline is completely different. In this, the only Tommy Doyle that matters is the one from the original film, who was a kid. So, it's not like there's some kind of phantasm type thing going on where they show him, progressively throughout his life, and, in each film or anything like that.
They just had there was one timeline where they had Tommy Doyle was low-key in Halloween 4 with Jamie. He was that dude that was like daring Wade to ask out that one chick in the pharmacy.
Okay.
And then he was played by Paul Rudd in Halloween 6.
Oh, right, yeah. And everybody kind of wanted Paul Rudd instead.
Which wouldn't make that much sense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, dude. I mean, he's doing Ant-Man stuff now, and yeah, he's older. He would look older, but yeah, canon-wise, it wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Which is the argument that I kind of posited too, and everyone was like, no, Paul Rudd. I was like, okay, get it. But, you can't just crisscross like timelines and shit like that. Like, it's not Marvel or something, so... Oh, speaking of which, but yeah, but that he's coming in Halloween Kills as Tommy Doyle. So let us know what you think about that. We've got a few trailers here, and then we'll get into our main discussion. The first one, finally, we got the trailer for American Horror Story 1984, which is coming out September 18th on FX.
Yeah, and Emma Roberts is in this season again, so seems like American Horror Story is saving a lot in terms of budget by recasting people from previous seasons.
Yeah. Speaking of the budget too, I mean, most of the comments that I saw about this trailer were kind of indicating how low budget and how cheap it looked. It makes sense given the material they're going for. Yeah. But, we've all kind of expected, I think at this point, for AHS to, be kind of a bigger show. But no, it looks fine. It looks cool. They're kind of going for that like VHS type look.
Yeah, I mean, but it has like some weird cinematography. It has, I saw like what we call sci-fi channel movie cinematography, kind of like that clown movie. Like, had a lot of that, which kind of like made me cringe a bit. So I don't know how this one's gonna turn out. I don't want to judge it. Yeah, I just don't want to judge it beforehand. Yeah,
no, that's fair. I mean, I think this might actually be the first season of the show that I actually watch, but it's really just to see what they do with it. Because it's American Horror Story, I know there's always some kind of like crazy fucking twist. So I want to see what's going on with this movie, because maybe the weird cinematography has something to do with it. Maybe like the promos have something to do with it, but I don't know.
Really reminds me of Slasher season 2. I don't know if you watched it, but like it's just like the way it is. I don't know, the way it's shot, and like just a group of people in a cabin talking. Like, that was basically besides the killing in the trailer, it was just a bunch of people in a circle, like, talking, and it's like, all right, throwback to Friday the 13th Part 2 style,
Oh, it's definitely got that vibe to it.
Oh, yeah.
The one thing I'm not sure about yet is the Mr. Jingles killer. I'm assuming there's going to be some kind of twist with him. So far, doesn't look like the most memorable or interesting killer,
No, I didn't like the killer guys that much. He's wearing like a fucking city slicker or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. Trying to channel that I Know What You Did Last Summer kind of look or something.
It isn't even like a real slicker. It's like something you wear out to the bars to show that you're a hipster. Yeah. Like, that's what it looked like to me.
Let us know what you guys think about it. I know there's a lot of American Horror Story fans out there that are very fervent. So hopefully this one's good. September 18th, FX. This next one is called Girl on the Third Floor, coming out October 25th in theaters and on digital. And CM Punk is in it for some reason.
Oh yeah, Chick Magnet Punk, Phil Brooks. Yeah. I guess, he lost his last UFC fight, so he's like, fuck it, I'm gonna be an indie horror.
I mean, it's kind of a natural progression from wrestling to acting. Of course, we've seen it many times before. I just didn't really ever think I'd see CM Punk do it.
No.
But yeah, maybe he got kind of dissatisfied with MMA or something, who knows. But he's starring in this movie, which kind of seems like your typical haunted house movie. There is some cool imagery, though. I'm thinking it's going to be maybe a little bit darker. CM Punk doesn't look bad, acting-wise. I'll have to see the actual movie, but from what we saw, I think it looked okay. Looked very atmospheric, kind of had that cool vibe to it. But again, I just worry that it's going to be a little too cliche. So this last one I was actually pretty excited about.
I remember you were telling me about this a while ago.
Yeah, I think we mentioned this movie in an article or something like that in a past episode, but now we finally have a trailer because Shudder has acquired One Cut of the Dead. Now, this movie received like critical acclaim globally. I did buy the Blu-ray from overseas and I have watched it, and it is really, really good. It's a horror comedy, but it's also kind of meta.
Okay.
But the twist is kind of really cool. There is a one shot in this movie, and it's really technically impressive. I think the budget was only like $30,000 or $60,000 or something like that. And yeah, it's pretty good. So definitely kind of reinvents the zombie genre. Sort of. Everyone says that, but it does put a nice twist on it. So if you're kind of jaded about zombie movies like Samael is, I definitely recommend checking this movie out, because hopefully it'll kind of, give you some confidence again. But it's coming out September 13th in New York and LA in a few theaters, and then September 17th in select cities, and sometime in fall going to be streaming on Shudder. So be on the lookout for that one. So guys, let us know what you thought about all the news we've discussed, all the trailers. We are now going to move on to our main discussion. So we'll be back in a minute. Grab yourself a drink, go to the bathroom, whatever. We'll be back with Phantasm. So Phantasm came out in 1979, directed by the one, the only, Don Coscarelli, and started a cult franchise that, never really like quite took off financially speaking as its contemporaries, but really became beloved in a lot of like hardcore horror fans' hearts, and just recently kind of did the same for us. And so in this episode, we're going to discuss how and why that happened. So, Sam, what was your actual like first experience with Phantasm?
So I was just sitting in my room. I had bought Phantasm because I've heard of it. Everyone's heard of Phantasm if you're in any horror circle. So I was like, you know what? Let me check this one out. It's 1979. I really like the seriousness of these 70s movies, and as well as like they're all super atmospheric. I was like, let me pop this one in, let's see what's going on. And right away it starts off in like a graveyard or something, people having sex, and then this chick like stabs this dude, and then the chick turns into an old guy, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? And that's how it all started off for me. And then as the movie progressed, I really fell in love with like the atmosphere of it. It almost felt like there was no one else in the movie besides the tall man, Mike, and his brother, and Reggie. This was before Reggie really became like a central character. It wasn't until the sequels, but Mike and his brother mainly Mike. And then he went to go like, check out the graveyard, some shit's going down. He saw like the skinny old guy lifting like a 1,200-pound coffin single-handedly and throwing it into the fucking hearse. So, he starts exploring, telling people that this tall man is killing people and like using their bodies for something. And then we see those killer spheres, and everything just starts going batshit crazy. And after my first viewing, I gotta say, I automatically was like, yo, this is one of my favorites now. Like atmosphere-wise, score-wise, the villain was pretty sweet. It was really eerie, really tense movie. It had its like kind of meh moments here and there. Like in terms of like when the tall man was chasing Mike, I thought it was kind of funny. I don't know why, because like it was just a shot of like this 6'6" guy chasing this little kid and he couldn't catch him. But he is an old guy, so I gave him the,
But from Mike's perspective, yeah, I mean, it was, I'm sure, absolutely terrifying, because Angus Scrimm as the tall man definitely had that intimidating, factor as well. And I think that's what at least attributed to him being a great villain. Also, I think Don Coscarelli wrote him up to be a great villain. He was good in the first movie, but I think definitely only got better as the franchise progressed. But Yeah, everything you said, I can pretty much agree with. I also think I saw it pretty recently for the first time. I think I got the Blu-ray like last year or the year before that or something like that. So I've always heard about it as well. But this is one of those franchises that like some of it is kind of hard to find. I think before Shudder had it, it wasn't really streaming anywhere. You can't even really find two, on disc that much.
Yeah, I got lucky. I found it on eBay and it was like $50, and I was like, I don't give a fuck if it was 100. I was gonna find it and grab it because I think it was a Scream Factory release too.
Yeah, I think you might be right. They did at some point, and then I think they lost the rights or something like that. So then it went out of print. Anyway, like still, even with the first movie before the re-release, kind of hard to find. So this is one of those franchises, I think almost akin to something like Wishmaster, maybe, or like The Prophecy or something like that, where people know about it. I think there are like rabid fans of these series, but it's nowhere near as big as something like Halloween or Friday, but still has a crazy cult fan base, and I think for good reason. Even though it's kind of overlooked sometimes and probably underrated, the first movie just sets up a totally awesome adventure, which is why, we got to talk about the franchise as a whole now. Just became one of my favorites. I mean, has this road trip kind of thing to it, and each movie just gradually builds up the lore, makes the whole situation like more dire and more and just like progressively crazier. Yeah,
and more macro, because where we saw it small scale in one city, it went from micro to macro to like whole level. We see cities being just dismantled. There's barely any people left. Reggie's picking people up off the road, mainly women, giving them rides and, trying to get it in and all that.
Yeah, I mean, when you really like kind of look at it deeply, there's a lot going on in the world around, but what you actually see on screen is slightly smaller scale. It just really builds up through like exposition, all the narration from like Reggie and Mike and all them, and them passing through these towns and just seeing them fucking like razed to the ground basically. So, but in their battle against the Tall Man, we kind of see them stop mainly at like one town in a movie. And, there's, of course, usually like a mausoleum or something like that. 4 is a little bit bigger because it takes place in like the desert, and 5 obviously is like the biggest of them all. But yeah, really it's kind of like they're stopping from place to place and fighting the Tall Man as they go along. But I just love that epic journey kind of to this franchise, because not a lot of horror movies or horror franchises are willing to explore that, I think. So it's pretty cool. Like, one that I'll always love for that aspect is Bram Stoker's Dracula, or really any of the Dracula stuff, because when you watch it, it's a bit of a longer movie, but it really feels like this adventure, and that kind of almost makes it more scary for some reason, just because it's like this inevitable, like, long thing,
Yeah, no matter where they go, the end result's kind of going to be the same.
Yeah.
No matter how many people they find to try to fight it, Tall Man's always going to win because there's an infinite amount of him. When you think about that, then there has to be an infinite amount of Reggies and Mikes, and we kind of see that unfold in the 5th one.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it gets to that point is not like so immediately clear in the first movie, and almost not even in the second movie either, but it really becomes a lot more sci-fi leaning, where they're exploring all these different dimensions, and it's this like interdimensional conflict basically. But it's kind of still weird to me that these characters are the ones that are doing it, but also kind of cool because they're not really all characters that you would expect to be like the stars.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting story. The fact that they're all like, heated rivals against one another is cool. Yeah, it's just like a really interesting dynamic between everybody, and like how it progresses is just super cool. But it's that inevitability in the story and in the Tall Man that makes it kind of like so enticing to me, and I feel like it almost makes for like the perfect binge of horror movies. Like if you just watch parts 1 through 5, it's pretty much perfect. The only exception being, of course, that 5 takes place like 18 years later and was
3 years ago.
Yeah, and was produced in that time gap. looks and feels way different
Oh yeah.
than the first 4 movies. Also, it was not directed by Don Coscarelli either.
It was written by him.
Yep.
And another dude.
Yeah.
David Hartman.
Yeah, so David Hartman took over directing duties on part 5. I'm not actually quite sure why, but I think that definitely attributes to why it feels so different. Also uses a lot of like visual effects as opposed to like the first 4 movies where you don't see that quite so much.
And a lot of transitioning between like dimensions and timelines.
Yeah.
In the last one, which was like, it kind of threw me off, but like at the end when it all was like said and done, you're like, oh, that's what's been going on. So Reggie has to die to actually be able to like join Mike in the fight for the tall man, because apparently the Mike that's fighting the tall man is a different Mike.
Mm-hmm.
And the Mike from his dimension found out about the tall man. And in that dimension, Reggie is dying and Mike keeps visiting him, but Mike also found out about the tall man that's actually plaguing them and tricking them and doing all this stuff and destroying the world one city at a time. It's crazy how the time between sequels, like imagine being a fan of this and like just having to wait that long and wondering. I mean, the first one, 1979, had a budget of $300,000, much like Halloween, and made $11 million in the box office.
Almost $12 million.
Yeah, so they took $3 million, put that into the next movie, and then that movie made $4 more million, up to 7.3 almost million for the second movie, and that was about 9 years later. After that, 6 years later, we see Phantasm 3, Lord of the Dead, and then shortly after that, only 4 years after that, we see Phantasm 4, Oblivion, and then not until 3 years ago, we had Phantasm 5, which was Ravager, which is, I'm gonna assume, the very last one, because Angus Scrimm is gone, and
yeah,
we just now have to assume that Mike and Reggie will be fighting the tall man as long as time exists.
Pretty much. And, definitely I think that's what the 5th movie implies. I mean, I feel like they probably knew that Angus Scrimm wasn't going to be around for that much longer. So I think they knew they had to finish it off. I don't even think they knew that there was going to be a movie. They like filmed it secretly, I think, once they kind of got an idea of what they wanted. But yeah, I think the only thing they can do now is either reboot it or leave it be.
I would
forever.
say like reboot it, which I wouldn't really like.
Yeah.
Or make a TV show continuing on.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't like show the tall man. You'd have to use like stock footage or like, I think think about it. Cause like holograms could work, cause like just like they did with Tupac, like have a hologram of Angus Scrimm, like, boy,
yeah,
you'll never win. And like him and Reggie are just talking to this hologram, and like they could indirectly beat him, like destroy his army, and then
I mean, it could be interesting. I don't know. I always liked the tall man's like direct involvement in the movies. And I mean, yeah, they could certainly do a lot with CGI. They could do stuff with holograms or whatever they want to do, but that also costs a decent bit of money. This has always kind of been one of the more lower budget horror franchises out there. So I almost feel like if they had that idea, they just probably wouldn't be able to think of the budget for it. And if they still went along with it, it might not look as good. So I think a TV series makes sense. I don't know if it's practical with everybody being so much older now and Angus Scrimm being gone. That was one of the best things about the movies for me, was like his interactions with everybody as they progressed and became, more like intertwined with each other and everything. Like when he spared Reggie in, the beginning of part 4, I think he's just like, I'm going to play like one more game with you or something like that. I was like, damn, 3 movies of Reggie going after this guy. He still doesn't respect him, but he kind of knows that he's sort of integral to the story.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously it would have sucked to see him die anyway, but
yeah.
But, that, and obviously his connection to Mike, we never really understand, I think, at the beginning why. We sort of find out in part 5 why he's so like connected to Mike. But yeah, it's really interesting, like the relationships. And the relationships between Mike and Reggie and Jody are all really good too, and they obviously fuel this franchise. So I kind of appreciate that as well. When you go in between like Friday the 13th movies, you never really have that progression with characters and in their relationships and everything.
No, it's more like just a new year of dumb teenagers going back to that same camp.
Yeah. Halloween is kind of trying to do it, but even that, I feel like...
There's too many timelines.
Yeah,
there's 1 and 2, which people consider one timeline. There's 1 by itself, which people consider a timeline, like nothing happened after 1. Michael just wandered away and he could be anywhere. There's 1 in the new one. Then there's 1, 2, H2O Resurrection. And then there's Rob Zombies. There's just too much going on there.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I really appreciate Phantasm, I think. It's just one complete story, you know. Yeah, there were some hiccups and, you know, Don Coscarelli didn't think that certain movies were going to be made. I mean, I think he even said, like, part 1 would have been a good ending. But then Universal kind of caught on to success and they were like, all right, we're going to give you some money to make part 2. And, you know, made part 2. Still made like a decent amount of money, so they kept going. But, you know, I think they could have stopped at any point, you know. But once they made part 3, I think the story had to be completed.
Oh, yeah, because they have already dug like way deep enough. And then Mike got that thing drilled into his head or whatever, and he became a goo person, whatever the fuck that was.
Yeah. And I think we really got lucky too, because part 4 consisted a lot of like old unused footage from the first movie.
I was so happy to see that. I was like, yo, this is sick. Is this on like the extra features on my first Blu-ray that I haven't watched?
Yeah.
We gotta check those out soon. We do have to check like the extra features on all these films pretty soon.
Yeah, there's honestly there's quite a lot of like really interesting trivia behind this franchise, and I think a lot of it is due to it being lower budget. Honestly, you know, when you go lower budget, also one of the things about One Cut of the Dead that I didn't mention, it really kind of explores the difficulties and the, you know, the joy behind like low budget horror filmmaking in particular. But Phantasm is definitely that like underdog story where it never really had a lot of money, but it still had a lot of heart. The story was interesting enough to keep a lot of people interested.
First one is definitely like top 10 horror movies of all time for me now.
The first one definitely became a classic.
Such a good fucking movie. Especially the atmosphere and the score. Like, oh my God.
I mean, I think it's a lot of that. It's a lot of like the dreamlike stuff. Like probably one of my favorite scenes ever is like the tall man, when Mike is having that like dream or something. The tall man is walking along the street
and then turns and looks at him.
You see Reggie as almost like this nobody character. You know, he's just kind of there. He comes, he turns around, there's like the smoke or whatever from the ice cream shit, and then, you know, he does whatever, and all the boy and everything. It's just great. But he was super intimidating in that scene. I love it. The bed scene, I think, which was the chase, if I'm not mistaken. But all of it's super cool. And it sets up the whole like sci-fi aspect really nicely. You know,
as soon as you get to that mausoleum or that funeral home itself, that's where it all starts. Really,
I wasn't expecting it. I really thought, due to like the title and the atmosphere and everything, it was going to be some like, you know, paranormal thing. Yeah. I'm really glad it wasn't, because I think it was
sci-fi was the right route to go.
Yeah,
especially with the forks and stuff, and how Reggie figured out. You remember when he was like fucking with the fork and stuff?
Yeah, I like it though, and I like that they introduced him in part 4, I believe, as, you know, Jebediah Morningside, and they gave him this. They gave him an origin, they gave him a backstory, but they didn't really go too crazy deep into it.
Oh no, he just went to another dimension, and then when he came back, he wasn't himself. He changed because he learned too much. And then he just decided to dedicate his life to destroying the normal world. And I think the reason he did that is like, once he traveled to the other dimension, he saw kind of how shitty ours is, you know, because like that other one apparently like was like so much better, more advanced. So I think he was trying to kill everyone on Earth to like take them there, in his mind, to a better place. I don't know if that justifies it, but I think that's what he was just trying to do. He wasn't really a bad dude, even though what he was doing was bad. Like his intentions were like to really kind of help everyone out.
Yeah, I think the whole thing behind it initially was that, you know, he was too ambitious. He wanted all the wisdom of the world, or so I think it implied. Kind of, he got it, and then it's kind of hard because obviously we see all these like multiple tall men, or like almost infinite amount of tall men, and I think at the very, very origin, like I think the original tall man now is gone. I think it's just like his alien essence is like split up.
Yeah.
And I think maybe each one has like a tiny bit of like the original Jebediah Morningside, or like there's one that has like a little bit of his soul in it or something like that. It's really interesting to kind of think about, because I'm pretty sure eventually in the 5th movie they're like, oh, he releases some kind of like alien virus or something. So I don't know if it's just like something took over his body or what happened, but I'm kind of glad that they leave some stuff up to interpretation like that. Obviously, some of it is arguably very convoluted, as the series progresses, and that's true because I was definitely lost at times.
Oh yeah, the 4th and 5th one I was kind of like
in
and out almost.
They got a lot more like just spacey and I don't know, is esoteric like the right word? Kind of just
I think that would be the right word, yeah.
And doing a lot basically, throwing in all these different timelines and versions of characters. It's cool because it's kind of sweet to think about what's going on and stuff. But there were definitely times where I was a little bit like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
But 3 and 4 I actually really liked. Honestly, like as back-to-back movies in this franchise, I think they were super cool. And yeah, just pretty much the entire franchise to me is fantastic.
My 2 favorites are definitely 1 and 3.
I would probably agree with that. 3, because Rocky, great side character,
and she came back in part 5.
Yeah. So yeah, that's another thing. I'm glad that some of these characters survived. I think she was one of the only like side characters to survive, because that little kid died.
Probably, right? Because I don't remember seeing him.
I think he was like snatched through the window and then we never saw him again, so it's assumed. And then like all of the other women characters, I'm pretty sure also died or were the tall man or like his agent or something like that. So yeah, it really became the Reggie. At first it was the Mike show, and there was never really too much about Jody, but he was there. And then it became like the Reggie show. And that those were like the focuses. But yeah, Chunk was his name, I think
so.
He was cool. He seemed like he became really important later on in the movie, and I don't quite understand why. He was cool, but like that was the first movie he was in. I don't know, it was kind of weird, but he was cool. And then Rocky came back, got some throwback characters, and I think that only could have happened because of like the lore that they established. And I just think they did a great job with that.
I think they did. I was really sad watching part 5 though.
Yeah. I just seeing like Reggie's descent as like a much older man trying to fight this fucking evil alien entity. It was pretty wild.
Yeah, it was.
And the end was very emotional.
Yeah, it was. I'm just glad it kind of ended really ambiguously, to the point where like, did they stop him? Are they going to beat him? Or is it just a forever battle? Because like we saw all the there's different timelines with different Mikes and different Reggies. Mm-hmm. So there's different tall men. So just as many, think about it. Tall man has twice as many enemies as he has of himself. So he has the same amount of Mikes as him that exist. Mm-hmm. So that means the same amount of Reggies exist, and the same amount of, the small dude. And like, so he has like...
It kind of seemed like there was mainly one of each of the protagonists. But yeah, there's like
I think they kind of hinted there might be more because of like, showing Reggie and Mike. They had their alternate selves too. Mm-hmm. So everyone else must as well. They're not special, There has to be some sort of... Since it's sci-fi, there has to be some sort of like science-y laws, main characters get their secondary timelines only.
I'm not quite sure exactly, but I don't know. I think they're probably just going to keep fighting them forever. Once we see like...
We should get a video game.
The giant, floating spheres. Video game would be sweet.
That would be amazing.
Because that way they can recreate everybody without having to rely on...
And like, it won't be like where you'll have to like release more video games. It'll be Phantasm, and then like you'll finish the story. It'll be like you could either do online story or offline story. And then once that is over, that season, like you get an update, and then the update is like the next part of the story, and we just keep going. I think a video game would be the right way to continue the movie franchise, because you could add Angus Scrim, you could add Reggie, you can add, Mike, you can add Jode, you can add whoever you want. It's a game.
Or either that or a comic book series.
I'm down for comics.
That should be cool, yeah. Because they do that with a lot of other horror franchises.
Halloween.
Evil Dead as well has one.
Freddy. Remember Ash versus Freddy versus Jason?
Yeah. Yeah. And, Hellboy obviously originated in comics. Stuff like that. I mean, they could definitely do that with Phantasm. If either Don Coscarelli writes it or somebody who has a real, passion for the franchise.
Don Coscarelli, we're going to tag you in this review of Phantasm when we post it to Instagram. I want you to listen to my video game idea. All right? I don't want to... Maybe... I'll do some voices if you want, but look, man, I want that game. I want one Phantasm game. Every season, downloadable stories. We'll get a month per story. Let's do it, bro. It'll be fun. Come on.
That sounds really cool.
I know you listen to your fans. I know you're a nice dude. I look at your Instagram.
Oh yeah. He goes to fan expos all the time.
You're gonna hear this, bro. Please make the Phantasm game.
That'd be cool.
I think it'll do well.
Yeah.
Even people that don't know it.
And people will crowdfund the shit out of it too, I'm sure. So.
And just so it doesn't get dull or to help people recap, start the story off with the movies. Play through the movie story. The Phantasm chapter 1 will be about Mike. Mm-hmm. And then chapter 2 will be about the second movie. And then after we get to chapter 5 months into the game, so that's for 5 months people will be waiting for the follow-up to part 5. Mm-hmm. And that's when they'll get it 5 months when the game comes out. Then boom, all that build-up, all that extra want. Come on, think about it.
That'd be cool. I'd want to play as Reggie in a first-person shooter aspect, because how can you not with the quadruple-barreled shotgun?
For real.
Which also I think is one of my favorite unique weapons in a horror movie. Definitely kind of reminiscent of, actually part 2 is done after Evil Dead, so kind of reminiscent of the Ash boomstick.
Oh yeah,
but double,
yeah,
or whatever. Really, really cool. But a lot of iconic stuff from this franchise that will just stay with me and all the other fans forever. The score, of course.
The score is the best. It changed a little from movie to movie, but still had that feel to it, that sound, and that's one of my favorite scores.
It always retained that, sort of from the original film, that same kind of vibe, and it's just a great franchise. I mean, I've talked about it pretty much as much as I can, and we are running a bit out of time, but I'll love it pretty much forever now. I definitely want to go on just a straight binge of the whole franchise, movie to movie.
Get that 5-film collection so you can do that.
I should, yeah.
It's just one DVD at Best Buy. It's $15.
I should do that. Yeah. So, Sam, anything else you want to say about Phantasm?
No, it's one of my favorite franchises now. Top 3 scores for me in horror, along with Halloween. Mm-hmm. Don't want to give off my third one. I'll keep that one on the hush. But
I think we definitely got a bit lucky now, having just watched it for the first time after the whole series basically finished. But for you longtime fans, for you new fans, maybe you guys who haven't watched it yet, please do. We recommend it very highly, and let us know what you all thought about this franchise and why you love it. So guys, I think that's gonna wrap it up here for episode number 75 Grave Discussions. Be sure to hit us up on all our social media, Facebook and Instagram at Grave Discussions, and Twitter at GraveDiscSRD. You can also check out the website, gravediscussions.net, where we have new stuff for you every week.
And tune in next week for episode 76. We're going to be juggling flaming raccoons on Grave Discussions. So you better tune in next week on Grave Discussions. We're not doing those things.
This has been an SRD production.